Welcome to Uncloaked Illusions. I'm Chris Anthony, and I wanted to share a little perspective on what's been transpiring throughout the week. And it commences ultimately with a conversation that a fellow conservative and myself was having at work. And we were discussing a great deal of the debacles that's been going on via the media, via geopolitical, and ultimately with some of the trade wars that's happening, and my perspective as well as her perspective on it. Now, when we got to the whole Syria debacle, I mentioned that I don't think it's conducive to Donald Trump to allow any kind of militarily strike on Syria to occur without the investigation happening, because in truth it would be as if you are destroying the evidence in that area so an investigation can actually happen. Now, when I mentioned this, she got quiet, and I was a little alarmed by it because I don't consider myself to be one of those Trump supporters that just goes along with every single decision that he makes, because there's a great deal of things that he has done that I have absolutely disdain toward. And she just fits into that category seemingly. Now, I don't know this absolutely, but she seems to fit in that category where whatever Trump does, she's going to agree with it because she's a diehard Trump fan, and I'm not a diehard fan of anyone. Right is right. Now, Russia has been trying to convey to the UN that they wanted to have an investigation carried out, and that many different pundits from countries could come in so it could be a legitimate investigation. However, the UN sort of smacked that down. They denied this to happen. And the United States, of course, Donald Trump has been threatening Russia, Putin, personally. And that's not going to fare out pretty well. I mean, they did this last year, and 50 Tomahawk missiles had been sent to Syria, and this was without any investigation, and we seem like we're repeating the same thing, and it just doesn't make any sense for Bashar al-Assad, being that he's been winning the war. He was literally about to liberate this particular area. For him to go ahead and gas his people yet again, a week after the fact that Trump had announced we were about to take our troops from Syria, and I maintain that we are violating international law because we were not invited into this sovereign country by this democratically elected government. Now, you have to think about this. The same thing happened last year, and we acted hastily. And the same thing is happening again a week after we had announced we're pulling out. Our troops are coming home. And then, just ironically, he bombs his people yet again with sarin gas, I believe. Now, we all know that's been paying attention, that's been following what's going on geopolitically, that the chemical weapons were removed from Syria a long time ago. And how all of a sudden are they constantly getting these chemical weapons? It just makes absolutely no sense. And I think that this is where cooler heads should prevail. And I don't believe, for the most part, that we have cooler heads in our military that's in positions that can actually deter a great deal of what's going on. Now, what do you think is going to occur from this? If this happens, I'm not saying that it'll start World War III, but it'll be a pretty hot war. And militarily, Russia has the United States checkmated. So, that leads me to a conversation that also transpired at work today about Russia and the United States if they went to war. A great deal of Americans are convinced that the United States is it when it comes to the military. We are the dominant force in the world militarily, but that is not the truth. Russia is 3 or 4 generations ahead of us militarily and weapons-wise. So I don't know whatever Kool-Aid people are drinking or whatever fictional show that they tune into and they allowed this rhetoric to reign supreme in their thought processes. But they need to get a reality check, and hopefully this will not have to be the reality check that they get. That they're ensued in a war and they basically have no clue of why on our shores of the wars made it here. Now, moving on, the whole FBI situation. Now that kind of, it just violates the trust between a client and a lawyer. You know, that kills the confidence of being able to trust that a lawyer and a client will have that confidentiality. And I understand, I empathize with the pressure that they have placed on our president. And this is happening, get this guys, this is happening to a sitting president. You should be alarmed about this. A coup being performed on a sitting president that was democratically elected. This whole Mueller investigation is just a farce. This is just a this is a strain on our taxes. Because a whole year has gone by with this supposed investigation of a supposed collusion between Russia and the Trump administration, and there's absolutely no evidence. The only evidence that seems to come forth is a collusion between Hillary and the Russians, between the Obama administration and the Russians, okay? Between the Democratic Party and the Russians. And I'm not alleging that there's any Republicans that had absolutely nothing to do with that, because again, there's a great deal of Republicans that are Democrats at heart for the most part. And I will also say this, when it comes to parties, I believe they all at the end of the day, they're only concerned about lining their own pockets. They do not give 2 shits about the American people. Now that's up to you, myself, the American people, to vote these fuckers out. Because they've sold the country out. They've sold you out. I don't know what more is it going to take for you to actually be shackled in some cell somewhere to get it. You know, we have a great deal of the attention being directed to this whole testimony by Mark Zuckerberg on Capitol Hill, which, mind you, wasn't under oath. So he could lie. He doesn't have to be truthful about anything. And mind you, what has been disclosed is if you're conservative, you are going to be hushed or shunned on his platform in a sense. Look at Diamond and Silk, what happened with them. I love the way Ted Cruz grilled him. However, I do remember reading an article that pointed out that he had paid Congress almost $900,000. So a great deal of those fuckers were paid off. Again, this is the people that we've selected supposedly to represent us. Needless to say, Facebook is pretty much data mining everybody. It's selling all of your information, your data, to other corporations. Maybe in China, maybe in North Korea, who knows where. But this is something that you're supposed to privately own and be in control of. But as I said, once you put it on the internet and it's in cyberspace, there's no getting it back. But again, that was something that psychologically needed to be implemented in the culture. Basically, we've been convinced that in order to be accepted, to be popular, to be loved, we have to put every bit of our private lives for the public. So just like the Germans during Hitler's rise You're just giving your freedoms away. Before you know it, the Fourth Amendment is going to be null and void because you're giving it away. No one's taking it from you. Most governments that are tyrannical, they don't take any of your rights away from you because you give them to them. And they are also, in certain states, they're starting to do gun confiscations. Gun confiscations. So what do you think this is ultimately leading to? Moving on from that, because I think I've already touched bases on a great deal of things. One more thing I have to say, also with the whole war thing, if Trump did this, this would be grounds for impeachment because, quite frankly, only Congress can vote the approval of a war. And a sitting president can't make this decision, especially if the country has not been attacked. That's the only way that he can do this. And Syria has not attacked the United States. So that's something also food for thought to think about. We also have this whole Steely Daniel things that I mentioned earlier, and all the whole propagating of it and the perpetuation of it. Now, mind you, President Trump, whatever dealings they had, that's none of our business. We really shouldn't care because it all occurred when he was just a U.S. citizen. Okay, unlike other people that were in the Oval Office getting a BJ and sticking cigars into whoever's vagina, no one said anything about that, although he was on the line of being impeached as well. The vote just didn't go through. But his law license was revoked. We all know Bill Clinton. So again, this is just some things to think about. And it all adds up. China just basically bought its oil contracts, its yuan oil contracts online. So this is going to be a rivalry for the petrodollar. And also, Russia has its own oil contracts. They have their own SIP system, which is similar to the SWIFT system, which is a system where you would have to purchase dollars in order to get any kind of oil from, let's say, Saudi Arabia or whatever country, OPEC nation or whatever that sells oil. Now they don't have to do this. And the Petro Yuan oils contract is doing really, really well. So again, all of this saber rattling, all of this provoking and provocative rhetoric is for a reason. This nation is insolvent. This nation, to be quite frank, cannot afford another war. And all of these criminal congressmen, they are afraid for their doggone lives, for the most part. A great deal of them are stepping down. Look at Paul Ryan, 48 years old. If President Trump or if Pence could not do the job, he would be third in line to be president. Has his own private jet that brings him back and forth to whatever states to speak or to do any kind of congressional work. And he suddenly decides that he wants to spend time with his family. You have to wonder why he and other congressmen are stepping down. Could it be that maybe these 10,000 indictments that are supposedly sealed and just waiting to be open, it's not a fictitious story? It's just something to think about. It's just a lot going on, and you have people that have absolutely no damn clue about what's going on in the world. But again, until it hits the shores of America, and I don't necessarily mean war, I mean inflation, I mean anything that has to do with the financial goddamn system hits the shores of America, then everybody's going to be looking around like, what's going on? Where did all this come from? Well, you weren't fucking paying attention. You were worried about what was going on with the Kardashians. And that's why now you're paying about $50 for that loaf of bread. That's why now you have to sell your car to get a meal to survive for the week. You've ever heard of a bail-in? I think you should look into that because it's something in the FDIC that it's been snuck into that. That if the banking system has any kind of issue and it needs to be saved, they're not doing a bailout anymore. They're doing a bail-in. That means they're going to take your money, because when you put your money in the bank, you're an unsecured depositor and it's not your money, it's their money. So it's just something to look into. You know, all of this narcissism that America now lives in, again, similar to Rome, right before it fell. This narcissism, this I only think about the most dilapidated and decadent things, and this is what life is about. And I hear this and I see this, I witness this on a regular basis. And I find myself saying, oh God, there is no hope for these people. You cannot help them. You know, I do conference calls trying to figure out how to get to people with people from all over the world that are concerned about what is about to happen to this country. And I'm stuck here in New Orleans trying to figure out how do I communicate with these backtown, backwards, country bunking fucking rejects who I can't even explain simple terminology to the differences of. You become a coon because you don't think like them. You become a sellout because you don't think like them, because you don't behave and appear like they do. But this is what I have to deal with, and I'm quite sure this is what a great deal of people, mostly in my community, have to deal with. You just find yourself throwing up your hands and say, fuck it. You can't help them. You can't lead them out of the subjugation that they're in. They want to be there. And one more thing I wanted to touch bases on while it's permeating through my mind. For my subscribers, I think you should check to see if you're still subscribed to me, because I've been watching like a tug of war with my subscriptions, and I've never really witnessed this before, but it seems like I've lost about 5 or 6 subscribers in a matter of hours, and then I get them back. Then it's back and forth, back and forth. I'm supposed to be, and this is just my estimation, at least at about 200 subscriptions at this point. But I see the tug of war. I've been looking at a great deal of other pundits on YouTube that are trying to get the truth out there, and they seem like they're having the same issues with their subscriptions just disappearing, with people being unsubscribed from their channels. And I ask that you guys just look into that. Make sure you hit that notification button, or that notification icon, so when I do a video, you guys can get it. Because this is what I'm trying out. Something that I can express what's going on in many different categories. And what's been going on throughout the week, I just want to use certain highlights and go with that. And I would love for you guys to give me your feedback on this new approach to it, instead of just directing my attention on one topic. Like the video, let's share the video. We need to share this. There's a lot going on in this world that's about to change America. That's about to change our way of life in America. So we need to share this information. You can always get in touch with me through my email, and go to my I believe the Patreon to support the channel so we can grow the channel. I want to go out and I want to be able to have these conversations with people on the street, and I want to be able to bring it back to you guys and share it with you guys. Sort of a Mark Dice type of thing. Maybe less insult, maybe not. It depends. And And also, I do have the Blog Talk Radio station airing still happening. It's just going to be pushed back a little bit because I'm still trying to discern what topics I should touch, because quite frankly, I don't want to touch the black community's topic because I don't think it'll go anywhere. I'm Chris Anthony, and I am out.